This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe on this date. And on this date, December 5th, 1974, the World Football League finally got their title game going. The Birmingham Americans became the first champion of the new league, winning in a close one, 22-21. Little did people know that this would be the only final that the World Football League would contest. Anyway, the World Football League was developed by Gary Davidson, a lawyer and businessman from California who was actually the driving force of the American Basketball Association and the World Hockey Association to challenge basketball and hockey's monopoly and all that. It worked out because basketball brought 4 ABA teams into the NBA by 1976, and the NHL added 4 WHA teams to the NHL in 1979. So anyway, he was known for trying to get the establishments. Unfortunately, the World Football League did not bring any surviving teams into the National Football League or change the NFL. Although they kind of did with Tampa and Seattle coming into the league in 1976. So one of the biggest founding fathers of the World Football League was John Bassett, who was also a key member of Canadian Wealth and all that. He owned the World Hockey Association's Toronto Toros, and Bassett's owned the Argos and the CFL and many newspapers and interests within Toronto and all of that. So anyway, they wanted to commence play in 1975, but they accelerated the timetable because of labor troubles, and the NFL and CFL had labor issues. So anyway, there were a lot of things going on and all that. The big thing was that Toronto, which would be the only Canadian team in the World Football League, but calling it the World Football League, it didn't make sense, actually managed to sign 3 Miami Dolphins players, Larry Csonka, Jim Kick, and Paul Warfield, to contracts. But that was to start in 1975. So basically, 74 would be a lame duck season, and then they would head to the U.S. and all that. Ken Stabler signed a contract with Birmingham and Darryl LaMonica for Southern California by 1975. So Oakland was going to lose both their quarterbacks right now. Teams would sign Calvin Hill and Craig Morton off Dallas. John Gilliam was signed from Minnesota. And anyway, 1974 and all that, the top minor leagues. So they did 1974. Of course, the World Football League would have all their teams in the U.S. because of the simple fact that Canada had an issue. And they decided, the Canadian government threatened to ban any American football team from competing with the CFL because they wanted to protect the CFL. Fair. They actually enforced the Canadian Football Act, but it was never passed. But the threat of it did work out. It made John Bassett move the team to Memphis and all that. Some people say it was the Grizzlies and all that. But the World Football League had a blow when both the CFL and NFL avoided a strike. So that means those players would probably not play and all that. So anyway, they decided to have the World Bowl originally for November 29th, and then it moved to August the 5th and all that. So anyway, the World Football League had issues and all that. So 6 teams would be going to a playoff and all that. The top 2 teams with regular season records were first round byes. So that would be Memphis and Birmingham. Imagine if Memphis stayed in Toronto. What? Well, anyway, Florida was to play Charlotte, and Southern California would face the Hawaiian team. Unfortunately, because of the whole advance tickets, the Hornets would withdraw from the playoffs and all that. So there were a lot of disasters and all that. anyway, it was 22-21. So the hometown Birmingham Americans would take on the Florida Blazers for the title. But it was actually revealed that Birmingham had owed $237,000 in federal taxes. And the IRS said that, for a portion of the gate, we'll let you play football. And they did. Both teams were actually owed several weeks back pay. And Birmingham only played when the owner promised them championship rings that they won. So anyway, there was a lot of complaining about the officials. Birmingham was actually up 15-0. And Birmingham was actually up 22-0. And it looked like they were going to win. However, Florida came back with 3 touchdowns. And anyway, that would be huge and all that. Florida was close, but Birmingham were the first World Football League champions. But they didn't escape unscathed. In fact, their jerseys were seized to satisfy team debts. And Sports Illustrated actually said that the first and possibly only World Bowl, foreshadowing what would happen the next season. And of course, there was a lot of financial losses and all that. Florida's head coach Jack Pardee went back to the NFL to take over the Bears franchise. And the Blazers franchise was sold off at an auction because the owner had financed the team through selling cocaine in a tax evasion scheme. Birmingham didn't do much better. Their office furniture was even repossessed because of their back taxes. The Hawaii team lost $3.2 million. New York saw Charlotte had $2 million in debts. And Jacksonville and Detroit were liquidated, only owing $4 million. Can you imagine? And this is 1974 cash. This is not 2023 cash. So anyway, lots of people wanted to get out of their contracts and all that. Ken Stabler, L.C. Greenwood, and Craig Morton managed to get their WFL contracts nullified so that they could stay in the NFL and all of that. Lots of people would actually bolt for the NFL. Danny White went to Dallas. Alfred Jenkins went to Atlanta. It was huge. A lot of people thought they were dead, and they were practically dead by October of 1975. All that. So, anyway. There were a lot of cities that hosted stuff. But, it was huge and all that. The World Football League had its one and only championship game in 1974 on this date. The XFL had only one championship game, so at least those franchises made it. There were a few leagues. I think did the United Football League crash? No, I think the All-American Football League or something crashed before they even got to a final. So take note. At least the World Football League got to a final. Some football leagues couldn't even get to a final nowadays, which is pathetic. But that's the way it went in the World Bowl. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond.